Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well. Today I'm going to be showing you how to paint, well, the Milky Way. The Milky Way is something that really inspires me. Camping in Africa for all these years, I've always wanted to paint it. In fact, I have painted it a couple of times before. Now, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll have seen those images, so I recommend you do. Now, today I'm going to be painting on linen canvas. You don't have to use linen canvas. You can use a piece of board, anything you like if you want to have a go yourself. I've already put 2 coats of black gesso on there. I suggest you do that. Get yourself some black gesso. It's really good stuff and a great to work on. I've also put 2 coats of ivory black. I let them dry here in between. Ivory black mixed down with some low-odor thinners and a little bit of liquid in there as well. That's alkyd ivory black as well, and that dries quite fast. Anyway, look, without further ado, let's get going. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be painting the planets as well and the moon, I think. Yeah, when my mind's eye, it looks amazing. 400 billion stars in the Milky Way. I'm going to show you a little cheat on how to paint that. I'm not going to be painting 400 billion stars. We'll be here for 5,000 years, as will you be. So look, anyway, without further ado, let's get going. So 2 coats of gesso, let it dry for 24 hours, and then you can start painting the oils on. This is the gesso going on. I suggest you also, while you're there, do yourself a little piece of canvas to test your star making skills out, and we'll show you how to do that in a minute. But hopefully it will look something like this when you finish. So this is a billion stars, and all very easy, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So you want some low-odor thinners and mix it into some, well, I'm using the ivory black actually with a bit of titanium white. This is alkyd colour, so they dry pretty quickly. You've got to get the right consistency, so add a little bit of the white, the Sansador low-odor thinners into the white and the black, but you must test it first. This is on the tester. Just knocking it like that will create streaks that look like a million comets. You don't want that. You want to tap it. Now, if it's really watered down, you'll get the big stars. Now that's fine if you want that. I'm looking for deeper, sort of darker stars and more depth. And I'm tapping quite light here, very carefully. Some of those big dots come out, but hopefully you keep going and you'll look like this. Adding some dark into it as well, some black into the white, creating smaller stars and deeper. Look like this. It's just a mass of stars, and that's exactly, of course, how the universe looks under a night sky without any light pollution, which of course we don't see here in the UK. You've got to tap and practice with this on a spare piece of black canvas that you put a load of black gesso on it. You'll be able to do it, and you'll be able to have some fun with it. The lighter you tap, the smaller the stars, and providing the mix is the right consistency. No way of me telling you how to do that. You're just going to have to practice. But this is the sort of effect you're after. Tap away to your heart's content. But you want some uniform consistency over the whole thing. Occasionally you'll need some bigger splodges. You can either paint them on with the wrong end of a toothbrush, the wrong end of a paintbrush, or I used to use a toothbrush, but that doesn't work so well. You'll flick, and like I say, it'll look like comets. Now here's the finished Milky Way. This is the effect we're after. This is my painting. So let's get into the Milky Way and I'll show you how to paint that. A large brush with some titanium white, just thinned it a little bit with some Sansador, not very much. And you're not putting too much on here. And I suggest you just give that a little wipe before you put it on the canvas. Again, you can practice on the other canvas you want. Work out where you're going to put this Milky Way, and you've got to make some big decisions here and get pretty brave with it. As you can see, it's a bit scary. You've just got to do it. Make your decision and get stuck in. And I'm very softly here. Very softly wiping that brush. And I'm really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm not painting a front door here. I'm really thinking about what I'm doing and looking to see what effect I have and on how hard I press. Now obviously the Milky Way is a little bit thicker in the middle, as you've seen and you'll see again, and adding more white here as I go. There's a little darker area in the middle. That's fine, we'll leave that, because that all helps to break up the consistency. You don't want it to be too uniform. Now keep going right across the canvas. You can add a little bit more white, as you can see here. We're going to leave that like that. That works really nicely. It's gas, but it looks like millions and millions of stars, but mixed up with the gas. And that area there, well, we're going to add some light into that later, so don't worry about that. There's no mistakes. You can't really make any mistakes here. We're going to add some colour now. That's a little bit of raw sienna. It looks more orangey, but it isn't. Keep a close eye on your reference here. If you've got a photograph of the Milky Way, there's plenty online you can look at. I photographed mine while I was in Botswana, but you can obviously look on Google. There's plenty on there. And I'm just adding, very, very softly, adding some colour, but I'm really looking at my reference as I'm going. I'm not doing it in a random way. I want it to represent the Milky Way. It's got to look like the Milky Way, or it just won't work. You can see all those deep stars bottom left that we've already done. And it's quite a soft brush, as you can see. Not much paint on it either. Put too much paint on, you're going to get in too much of a mess. So keep scrubbing away, but really think about what you're doing. And you can keep going. You can add various colours as well. Don't just stick with that colour. Just look at the photograph you've got in front of you, or the image, and just recreate that. I'm also adding some darker. This is burnt umber with a little bit of ivory black. Just adding that. It's a very dark, gassy area to the right, or to the left, depending which way you're looking at it. Again, a really soft brush. I haven't cleaned that brush, by the way. Don't mix up any white spirit on that brush. You don't want any of that, or it'll just get really muddy and messy. So keeping the shape and looking at the shapes of the Milky Way, adding that burnt umber and black into it, what we've already done here. It does require commitment, and you just got to keep going. Don't rest on your laurels and think, oh, that's good enough. No, you've just got to keep going until you're really, really happy that it looks like your piece of reference. Once it's dry, you can always go over things again. So keep adding it. And now through the middle of the Milky Way, there's this dark area. We're going to save that area in the middle for light, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. That's going to be our central point. But there's a dark area of this sort of ivory black and a little bit of cad red in there, just a tiny bit of red, and you get this sort of a purpley, sort of bluish colour. That's the colour that runs its way all the way through the middle of the Milky Way. Again, I'm just adding and playing with it, keeping an eye on your reference. I haven't got my reference in front of me here. I'm just making this up, but I painted it a few times, and I did study the reference I've got beforehand. That's what it'll look like almost when it's finished. We've now got to add that central piece of light where, right in the middle of the galaxy, where all the clusters of, obviously, suns are, I suppose, where the largest number of suns are, the largest light source, the centre of the galaxy. So this is a bit of cad yellow and a little bit of white. Again, test this. You don't want to put too much on. Just dab where you want it to start with. And put it in. Don't go over that dark area. It's sort of almost popping out the side. You'll be able to see when you paint it, when you see the photograph you're working from. You can see where it's coming. Try to remain true to that as well. That will really help your final image when it's finished. So I'm just dabbing it on, and now I'm going to get a much softer brush and just blend that in. And you're going to keep working that. You can add more light into it. This is what we're looking at. This is the finished painting. You can see there bottom left. So that's what we'll be looking to achieve. And just got to keep working it with a nice soft brush. Don't put too much paint on your canvas or your board or whatever you're painting on. Just build it up and build it up. And also, once you've done that, we've got to make some more stars to go over the top. So more tapping to do. This is cobalt blue with a tiny little bit of white into it. And you're just going to add a little bit of thinness in it, and not too much. Ooh, and test it first before you do this. Obviously, you don't want to make big splodges here. You're just tapping very, very gently and straight over, horizontal to the canvas, so you don't create lines. Very, very subtle. But you can see here, there's no lines. It's all tiny little dots. Billions of stars. So there we are, little in the centre section. I've added a little white and kind of dusted that out with a soft brush. And just keep working and working. You see all those stars around the edge. Very satisfying. And just sort of finishing off now, we're just going to make some blue stars, and you can put some crosshairs on it as well. like this to make it look like it's shining. I've also added the moon and the earth. I'll put this on another video probably, but it's not for today. There is the final piece. It's called Sunrise. I put the light over the earth there. And that's it. Well, I look forward to seeing your comments, and please do have a go.